Do you know that Queen Victoria, the ruler of the greatest empire of the 19th century, lived a life filled with secrets? Yes, welcome to my channel. To the public, she was the perfect queen, dutiful, unshakable, a symbol of power. But behind the palace walls, she was haunted, obsessed, and drowning in mysteries history tried to erase. From childhood, her life was built on control. The infamous Kensington system, designed by her mother and Sir John Conroy, meant she wasn't allowed to sleep alone, wasn't allowed to walk downstairs without holding someone's hand, and wasn't even allowed normal friendships. She grew up not as a child, but as a prisoner in a golden cage. That cage created shadows in her mind. Victoria poured her heart into her diaries. But when those journals were later prepared for the public, thousands of pages were cut, blacked out, or destroyed. What was so dangerous that it had to be erased forever? Then came Albert. To the world, theirs was a royal love story. But to Victoria, Albert wasn't just her husband. He was her anchor, her balance, her entire world. And when he died suddenly in 1861, something in her broke. From that moment, the Queen of England turned to the shadows. She sought out mediums, seances, and the hidden world of spirits. In one chilling case, a 13-year-old medium shocked her by revealing private secret status only Albert could have known. So here's the question. Was Victoria truly speaking to her husband's ghost? Or had someone stolen the most private secrets of the crown? Behind the black mourning dress, another Victoria lived. To the public, she was the widow of Windsor. But inside the palace, rumors whispered of forbidden bonds. First came John Brown, her rugged Scottish servant. Officially, her guard. Unofficially, something more. The Queen trusted him with her safety, her moods, even her deepest thoughts. Court gossips called her Mrs. Brown. Some claimed she even gave him a ring that once belonged to Albert himself. If true, it meant she had passed her late husband's most personal token into the hands of another man. Then there was Abdul Karim, a young Indian servant who rose to become her munshi, her teacher. He taught her Urdu, dined with her, shared stories of India. The royal household despised him. Her children accused him of manipulation. But Victoria defended him fiercely, even against her own family. When she died, those same children burned her letters to Karim, desperate to erase the evidence of their bond. But her strangest habit was her nightly letters, not to Karim, not to Brown, but to Albert. Yes, Albert, who was already dead. Every night she wrote to him, as if he were still alive, describing her day, her decisions, her pain. These weren't symbolic gestures, they were conversations with the dead. The seances continued in secret. Osborne House was said to have a chamber decorated with antlers and shadows, where she sat alone with flickering candles, begging spirits to answer. Witnesses whispered that one seance ended with the Queen fainting. The official story, it never happened. The truth, buried in silence. And there were other secrets, to her dependence on opium-based medicines for her pain, her violent temper that echoed through palace halls, her endless rituals of grief. To the public, she was the Iron Queen. In private, she was fragile, obsessed, and consumed by ghosts. And here's the question that pulls us deeper. If these hidden letters, seances, and forbidden relationships had been exposed, would the world still have called her a queen, or would they have called her mad? Do you know that Queen Victoria was almost killed not once, not twice, but 8 different times? History calls it assassination attempts. But when you line them up, it begins to look less like coincidence and more like a curse that kept circling her throne. The first came in 1840. Victoria was just 21, newly married, and 4 months pregnant. She was riding in her open carriage when a man named Edward Oxford suddenly pulled 2 pistols and fired at her. Both shots failed. Oxford was dragged away. The Queen survived, but only a decade later, in 1850, danger returned. A former soldier, Robert Patay, approached her carriage on a London street and struck her in the head with a heavy cane. Witnesses said she staggered back, her bonnet crushed, blood on her face. For the public, she waved it off as nothing. But her diary revealed the truth. She had been shaken to her core. And then, in 1872, came the boy who almost succeeded. Arthur O'Connor, just 17, climbed the gates of Buckingham Palace with a pistol in his hand. He rushed straight at Victoria's carriage. At the last second, her loyal servant John Brown grabbed him and pinned him down. If Brown had hesitated even a moment, history might have ended differently. There were others, 2 lone men with guns, unstable figures lurking in crowds. 8 times the bullet never struck, the blade never pierced, the plot never worked. Each failure left Victoria alive, but more and more isolated. Some in her court began to whisper that she was untouchable, protected by fate. Others said the opposite, that she was cursed to suffer, forced to live through grief, loss, and terror again and again, never allowed the release of death. What made it even stranger was Victoria's own reaction. In private, she admitted that sometimes she wished the assassins had succeeded. She longed to be with Albert. She wrote about the temptation of death, the dream of reunion in the afterlife. Yet every attempt failed, as if some unseen hand refused to let her go. Was it divine protection or a cruel curse? By the end of her reign, the legend of the immortal queen spread through the empire. 8 assassins tried and failed. 8 times death knocked at her door. And 8 times she lived on, watching her loved ones die. Watching her empire stretch endlessly. Watching herself grow old in black veils. And so the question deepens. Did Queen Victoria rule the greatest empire on earth because of her strength, or because she was trapped by a fate far stranger? A fate that would not let her die until her story was complete. Do you know what Queen Victoria carried with her to the grave? Not just a crown or an empire, but secrets, so strange that even her own children tried to bury them forever. When she died in 1901, after 63 years on the throne, the official story was simple. The nation mourned, the empire stood still, and the age named after her finally ended. But what the public didn't see was what happened in the hours before her coffin was sealed. In her final instructions, Victoria demanded something shocking. She wanted objects hidden in her coffin, pieces of her private life locked away with her body, alongside royal jewels and her wedding veil. She asked for a cast of Prince Albert's hand to be placed inside. She also wanted a lock of John Brown's hair and one of his photographs. Think about that, a queen, buried with tokens not just of her husband, but of a servant the world accused her of loving too much. Even more curious, she requested that Abdul Karim's letters be destroyed after her death. Her family obeyed, burning the evidence of a bond they despised. But some fragments survived, and they reveal a closeness the royals wanted erased from history. Why destroy letters unless they revealed a truth too dangerous for the crown? And then there are her diarists, those endless pages of ink she poured her soul into. Tens of thousands of entries. But after her death, her youngest daughter Beatrice took control of them. For years, she sat with scissors, carefully rewriting and cutting out what she didn't want the world to see. The result, a ghostly, edited version of Victoria's voice. The true thoughts of the queen, her most forbidden desires. Her darkest beliefs were burned to ash. So we're left with fragments, seances, and candlelit rooms. Letters written to a dead husband, rumors of love with a servant, trust in an Indian companion, 8 failed assassinations, and a coffin filled with secret relics. Was Victoria the Iron Monarch who built an empire? Yes, but she was also something far more human, far more mysterious. A woman haunted by grief, clinging to spirits, hiding forbidden bonds, and leaving behind a trail of secrets her own family tried to silence. And maybe that's why her story still lingers like a ghost beat. Because the queen of the Victorian age was not just a ruler of millions, but a prisoner of her own hidden world. So here's the final question. When you think of Queen Victoria, do you see the mighty Empress of India, the monarch of half the world? Or do you see the lonely widow, the secret seeker, the haunted woman history tried to forget? Those who enjoyed the story, please like the videos. If you want to hear more interesting stories, subscribe my channel.